So the first thing you're going to want to do in this job of removing the manifold is you are going to have a cover right here, the manifold cover. It's going to be held on by two 10mm bolts. Next, because we are going to do an ECU relearn afterwards, because I'm going to be cleaning the throttle body, installing a new air mod, etc. Even if you're not installing a mod, I always like to disconnect my battery. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect take a 10mm wrench, disconnect the negative terminal. I'm going to remove this whole thing right here. So you got to unplug the mass airflow sensor. There's a couple clamps, couple hoses you got to disconnect in the back. All right, got the clamp done right here. I have the two hoses that are off right on the back. The mass airflow is just chilling. So we're done with this right now. We have access to the throttle body. Since the manifold has to come back out towards you, it's not going to clear this whole piece right here. So what we need to do now, we need to take this plastic panel off. Mine only has two black clips, and then there should be some that are on your corner. So here's the cover that I'm talking about right here, and it's being held on by, it's got a couple screws. Obviously you got your ones on the top we need to disconnect, and then looking at the back, there's a wiring harness that runs underneath that. So we're gonna have to remove a few things here to get that off, as well as the, you know, I'm about to just take the front bumper off, honestly, just to get it out of the way, because you got these two right here. So to remove the cover, you're gonna want to take this front piece off for the bumper, which are held on by two Allen wrench keys right there. And then you're gonna have a bunch of these 10mm bolts, either 10 or 12s everywhere. You're gonna have one there, one on the front, one on the back, right over here. There's gonna be a wiring harness you need to disconnect underneath. I already did mine. Got a sensor right there, I think either for the coolant fans. And then we have two for the coolant, reservoir cap up here, the bracket, there, and in the back. That is what they're gonna look like, right there. And then there's gonna be, on each bracket on each side, you're gonna have one right here. I have a zip tie right there. And then there's gonna be pretty sure it's a Phillips head. It's like a little bolt right up in here. Right there, it's hard to see. Literally there. You're gonna need a wrench because the ratchet's gonna get in the way of the battery. So just use like a ratchet wrench or whatever you can to get that out of there. So I got the wiring harness disconnected in the back, guys. Some of these are a pain to get out. These little black clip. We're gonna have the front ones I need to do. This is for the radiator support bracket. That's a bracket one. And then I have two for the condenser. So you have this one you got to undo, and then that one on the side. They're all 10mm. The last radiator support bracket out. You can put these off to the side. So this whole thing should be ready to fold back once I get these out. Simply just tuck this underneath that, and I should be able to lift this up like so. Disconnect this one right here. Carefully pry it up, guys, because there is something that is still connected. So loosen that. We're just gonna simply just tuck this right off to the side. Crazy how much room is opened up right now, guys. We are a quarter way to swapping the K20 in right now. I really wish. I wish, because I know I can do that swap. It's just a matter of time, guys. I'm waiting for the K20 to die. The wintertime, hopefully I'll get my hands on a K24A2. Next thing we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna remove the map sensor, and then we have a throttle. It's literally right there. It's a throttle actuator cable, I believe, or a sensor. I'm not 100% sure, correct me down below, but it literally plugs right into the throttle body. So it's got to be like a throttle actuator. It's right in the back. We got to undo that. There's a clip on it. Guys, it can be tricky. That bolt was literally rusted on for me, so what I did was I took a screwdriver on there, right? Pressure on it. Tapped it a few times. Look at all that rust right there. Look at that. Just be able to wiggle this out gently, guys. Try not to, like, break anything. Pry up a tad right on the back side here. There it is. Map sensor is off. There's an O-ring right on the bottom there. Be careful not to damage this thing because I'm sure it's pretty expensive. So I'm going to try to clean out inside this hole when I can. This hole right here, and as well as around that O-ring, but this is shot inside there. There's all like corrosion and everything. This throttle body actuator off. I know it's hard to see, guys, but it's literally a connector right into the side here. There's a bracket on it. There's a clip. All right, got it off, guys. So it's right here. It's a decent sized sensor, actually. It's probably really expensive. Literally came right out of there. It's on the side of the throttle body. Now what we need to do is remove this hose over here. I think this is our brake booster. This is the Evap hose. So we need to remove these both. This one's gonna be a pain, I can already tell right now with the amount of rust that's on that. And then this has a clamp, which is gonna be tough too. So we're gonna get these two off. There's a 10mm behind there on a bracket. I'm gonna take that bracket off. So once I get this bracket off, these hoses out of the way, I can unplug the fuel injectors in the back, pry up on this clip, and I can fold everything over to here. Then I'll have access to the whole manifold a lot better. All right, guys, I got one of the hoses off, actually both of them off, but this one I screwed up. I ended up twisting it too much. Now I put a hole in it, so I wouldn't be surprised if I have like a vacuum leak or something with this one. So we'll see what happens. I'm just probably gonna run it because I'm a budget right now. So I'm gonna remove that 10mm on the bracket that I was telling you guys about, which is right. So there's the bracket that I'm talking about. I have this ground. I'm gonna unplug that right now. That's a 10mm ground. Get that off of there. All right, now I'm going to, since I have everything disconnected over here, I'm gonna remove the fuel injector clips. So you just pry up, push in with both fingers. Those are the clips. Really wish I had some RDX 410s going in right now. Lift, push out on this tab, lift up, push out on that little tab, lift up. We fold everything. I like to tuck everything off to the sides, guys. Pretty organized right here, so everything's pretty easy now. I forgot about the two hoses down below here. So there's a water bypass, and I believe there's a coolant bypass hose down there, which are right here connected in. So I have a clamp and a bracket right there. Don't mind this latex glove, guys. I'm doing that on purpose to cover my throttle actuator sensor so I don't get any coolant and crap on that, as well as the mass airflow sensor. Before I get those two though, I'm gonna go ahead and remove my custom ground wire that I have right here on the top. The 10mm, I just wanna get this out of the way some more. Just tuck that off to the side. Coolant bypass off. Just got a little baby bracket right there that needs to be undone. And then there's a clamp underneath. Make sure you guys get a paper towel or something small enough to plug one of these hoses, or even both of them, because when you remove them, liquid is gonna come out. You're probably gonna have coolant. And another thing is, guys, when you're doing this, make sure that the car is cold. You're gonna make it a lot easier. You don't want fuel in the system, because when you go to unplug your fuel line, or your injectors, you're gonna have fuel spill out everywhere. Or if the engine's warm, so you're gonna have coolant just piss everywhere. All right, so I'm literally trying to get this bypass hose off right now, and it's giving me a hard time. So what I'm gonna do, since I need to take my throttle body off completely anyways, I'm just gonna remove the throttle body, pop the spacer out, slap my other spacer in there, and while this is out, I can get a better grip on it because I can't get these pliers in there. I don't have anything else that's smaller. So just working on taking the throttle body off right here. These are either 12, I think they're 12 mils or 13 millimeter bolts. These are the aftermarket ones that came with the P2R throttle body spacer. So there is 4 bolts for the throttle body. There's 1, 2, 3, and then there's a 4th one back there down at the bottom. Just working on getting this last screw out, stud, whatever you want to call it, in bang. There's the throttle body is off. There's the throttle body spacer right there, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this whole thing off. This slight bracket that I'm just gonna disconnect so that I can take the full throttle body off, and then I have the other 2 hoses that I was telling you about, the bypass hose, the coolant, and the water bypass. Fill you guys in. All right, I plugged the coolant bypass. The coolant bypass is going to be the lower one right here, so make sure you have something to connect it with, because mine literally, there wasn't a lot of coolant, but there was a lot that dripped down into my slave, so I had to take some water and rinse everything off. So still working on this other hose right here. So here it is, guys. Got the stock SI throttle body off. Look at this thing, man. It's so high tech. It's actually pretty big. I'm gonna go ahead and clean, obviously, the inside and out. I got some carbon throttle body cleaner, so I'm gonna do that eventually. Now we're gonna have this sensor right here that's literally under the throttle body. You're gonna lift up and push back with a flathead gently, and it should just come right off like so. Since I can't get this sensor disconnected from this metal bracket, guys, I'm just gonna bend the bracket downward. Just be careful on the sensor that you're not bending that. And there's a bolt right up underneath here. Let me show you guys. So this bracket is supporting this down to the block. Your manifold sits on that. We need to remove this bolt right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. You're gonna need a deep socket for that. So here's my setup, guys. Kind of use a smaller ratchet. It is a 12 millimeter. You're gonna need a deep socket for that. Just a little nut that holds the stud for the manifold. Working on disconnecting the fuel for the fuel line. There's gonna be a plastic cap that goes over that. You're gonna take this plastic cover off. There is 2 tabs. You're gonna push both of them downward, and we should be able to remove the fuel line here. So I'm gonna gently just, there's the fuel right there. There's some fuel leaking out. So just cover that with a paper towel. Don't light any matches, guys, obviously. You could actually turn this up. You could angle this thing upward like that so it doesn't drip. As far as bolts go for the manifold, we're gonna have 1, 2, 1 down in the middle, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 or 8 bolts. I'm gonna take my fuel rail off with the injectors. I'm gonna remove those, and then I'm going to get the rest of the bolts. They're all 12 millimeters, guys. These 2 are 12 mils, and the bolts that are holding the manifold onto the block. All right, so for the fuel rail, guys, just gonna gently lift up here. They're in there, man. These things have been in there for a while. All right, this fuel rail is being a complete pain to get off, guys. There's a bunch of corrosion in the back there. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me grab my light. But look at this. There's all corrosion in the back there. I got the injectors to budge a little bit because there's gaps in between all of them, but I'm just gonna take it off. I'm gonna start working on the bolts because I'm running out of daylight here. So all right, got the top ones loosened up, all the 12 millimeters. This one in the corner is pretty tough. Just use a long extension on it. Right now I'm working on the one in the back near the idler and tensioner pulley. It's really far back there. Then I have this middle one left, which is right down there. Just getting our final few bolts off here. I got 2 more. Make sure you guys have a thing that can catch coolant, because there is coolant that's dripping down to the block right now from the manifold, so just beware. Don't forget to remove your PCV valve, the hose right here, which just came off on the side. There's just a little clamp to get that off. And then this bracket, guys, I thought I was slick by bending it, but this stud right here underneath is so long that you can't pry upward because it gets stuck. See that? It gets stuck on there. So I need to get that bottom bolt off. There's another bottom bolt down there. I think it's a 12 millimeter. Hopefully you guys can see my ratchet. Just follow this bracket right here all the way down and you'll see a 12 millimeter down at the end, guys. So work with it. I'm almost there. Got it loosened up. Right, bracket is off. All right, guys, bracket is off. I'm just letting it chill down there. It is hard to see, I'm sorry. It's getting freaking dark, but I'm just letting this thing chill right here. It's still got the connector on here. Let's pull the mani off. Just work with it here. So got the manifold right off. Pain, man, this thing was tough to get off. We still have a hose that's connected at the bottom. I got fuel and coolant dripping everywhere. Oh my god, this is fantastic. Final clamp right there. It's under the I still got coolant dripping down the block too. It's literally under the manifold. It's like in the triangle bolts on the right side. They say it takes blood, sweat, and tears, right? Look at that. Oh man, that hurts like a mother, dude. Carbon scraper got me, slid right off the hose and like angled to my left and